I do not regret one thing in my life, not one thing. One of the main reasons I don't regret it is because it taught me how to be resilient, taught me how to push forward when things go bad and to not give up.
Welcome to Flip Your Script, the podcast about life's critical turning points and how people find the inspiration and motivation to move forward and rewrite their unique stories. Produced by Media Minefield, the show is hosted by Krist Piehl, who flipped her script from an Emmy-winning journalist to a successful entrepreneur and speaker.
Not far from where I sit, a murder sparked a movement. I don't know about you, but since George Floyd's tragic death, I've realized I have a lot to learn. There are so many valuable resources out there, books, movies, podcasts, and then there's something I believe is even richer, more important. It's an honest conversation. Stories are sacred, and I'm grateful Timi Ogundipe is willing to share his with us. Timi has flipped his script in dramatic ways. He's now an entrepreneur, a podcast host, husband, and father, and his life today is vastly different from the path he was on as a teenager. His journey, and he's going to share it all with us, includes crime, punishment, and redemption. Timi, welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today, Kristy.
I'm so excited to hear more about your story. And let's start when you were a teenager. What was that like for you? How was school? Because I think your story starts taking a path that you had to correct when you were a teenager.
Yeah, and it actually starts from when I was younger in terms of school. I have an older brother who was a straight A student, didn't get in trouble, so on and so forth. And then here's me, didn't care about school, didn't care about being on a roll. All I cared about is sports, Phi-Ed before I even started sports, so on and so forth. And that kind of set the tone for my family and myself, like, hey, you're not going to be good in school kind of thing. So that kind of was the mindset that I had that, hey, I'm not going to be in school, so why try in school? A lot of the times I get in fights. I remember I got jumped. Funny story, I got jumped when I was in second or third grade by 3 different people, literally stomping me out under a desk in third grade. And I didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my parents, didn't tell my teacher. I went and I beat each one of them up individually, and I got in trouble 3 different times for doing that. And that's kind of how my life continued on, from elementary school to middle school to high school. I just would always fight. I always fight. And my parents thought it was temper tantrum, basically what it was. But it was something more going on mentally that we just didn't know about.
Second or third grade is like 9, 10 years old. That's aggressive. Not only you took it to the kids for justice, but someone beat you up first.
Mm-hmm. And I wish I could remember why it happened. For the life of me, I cannot. But I do remember that I was under a desk and I was very upset because I couldn't get up. And I was thinking, okay, you guys got me on this one. I'm going to get you back kind of thing. So,
was race a factor?
The school I went to, I grew up in the suburbs of St. Paul. So that school was predominantly, elementary school at least, was white. So I don't think it was a factor, but it was all white guys that did that.
So you get in trouble, doesn't matter because you have a temper tantrum and your parents think it's a temper tantrum. You realize much later that there's more to the story. As you get into high school, I suspect that elementary school fighting turned into behavior that was more damaging.
Yep. And going into my freshman year of high school, I met these group of guys from sports, I think it was track and whatnot. And going into my freshman year, I had a house party. It was the first time I had drank, lost my virginity, and smoked weed all the same night. And I don't remember the night for the most part. And that same night, I ran into somebody who was selling a gun. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm naive. Let me get this gun real quick. It was I don't know if people know gun, but I think it was like a high point and whatnot. And I bought it from the dude for about $200. And I carried that gun to school with me every day. Only one person in the whole school knew. And I had it from freshman year to senior year. And besides that, I would get in fights. Anybody that would look at me funny, I'm hitting you. Anybody that bumped into me, I was hitting you. I never started fights, but I made sure that if I wanted to fight somebody, I did something to instigate them to hit me first so I can beat them up. So that was kind of, my thing throughout my, freshman and senior year to senior year. I did sports, especially football, to be able to legally take out my aggression on people. And people knew that when I got mad during a football game or practice, that I actually played better because I didn't care about hurting myself, didn't care about hurting you, didn't care about unsportsmanlike conduct, so on and so forth. So My fight, I fought probably a good maybe 15 to 20 times a year.
That led you down a path where now it's that dangerous, risky behavior, and you still have the aggression, and you have a weapon to hurt people. You never used it?
I never used it. I kind of showed, the one person I knew was a dude who was bigger than me, and him and two of his friends were trying to me up in things like 10th grade or something. And I'm like, look, I'm not trying to fight all three of y'all big dudes. This is what I have. Let's back up, real kind of thing. So the dude that was the leader or whatever knew about the gun, but the other three didn't. And that's the only time I kind of showed it to everybody, because I knew that obviously I would get expelled if it got found out.
So now that you're older and you have children and you think about 13-year-old you, how has your perspective of your behavior, and you needed help? I mean, you were crying for help. You just didn't say the words, right? So how has this changed your perspective as a father?
Yeah. So in high school, my parents, we're Nigerian, we're African, right? And we didn't know what mental health was. We thought they thought, as well as me, that I just had anger issues. Like I was just an angry person. And it was more than that. But I didn't find out until 22 years, when I was 22 years old. So the whole time they just thought I had a temper tantrum. I was just an angry person. They tried putting me on different disciplinary actions and whatnot. I didn't care about it. So my perspective from now, from when I was 13, was normal 13-year-old would love doing what I did. Like I literally would fight. I love fighting. The rush, and I kind of love hurting people too, as bad as that sounds. But I think it wasn't me. It was just like my mental health that was brewing at that time. I don't know if because I started drinking or whatnot, but I would have a vodka-filled water bottle and I would drink it during the day. I would stop in like fourth period or fifth period before school stopped, so I can be coherent enough to go to practice, whether it was basketball practice, track, or football. That was probably about 3 days a week.
So this wasn't I'm going to party on Friday night and sober up and go back to school. And you're drinking every day.
I'm drinking every day. Yep. Almost every day. Now, I wouldn't say every day, because obviously game days, I don't think I drank much, but most of the time it was just practice. Let me just drink real quick.
So you then go to college without getting the help that you need. And what happens in college?
Well, this actually happened before college twice. So my sophomore year, I believe, I can't remember the situation, but I had gotten in trouble in school. It was something that happened at school, and I got suspended. My parents were mad, yelling at me, saying it was my fault, whatever happened. And I ended up feeling like complete. I let my parents down, my brother down, because he was a senior at this time as well. I was just hitting the varsity football team 10th grade. I felt like I let them down, so on and so forth. And I ended up popping probably 30 pills of aspirin to kill myself. Of course, I don't know the details of what aspirin's going to do. I'm thinking, oh, cool, these pills are going to kill me. All it did, I lost about 4 hours of time, had puke all over the bathroom floor, puke all over me, and I had the worst stomach ache in my entire life. So I was the first suicide attempt just because I felt like I let some people down. Then my senior year of high school, in between football season and wrestling season, I had just quit the basketball team to wrestle because I thought I was going to be on varsity team on my senior year for basketball, and I sucked, so I wasn't. I had the gun with me. My parents were gone. My brother was obviously in college at this time. Had the gun with me. Sat on the kitchen floor. I had the safety on, which I didn't know. Put it in my mouth, pull the trigger. Nothing happened, obviously. And then I was upset. I'm like, damn, I can't even kill myself right. So that was the second attempt. So at this point, I'm thinking in my mind, well, maybe I don't need to die. Maybe I can just forge forward. Then freshman year came, and I met this one, I'm not going to say his name, but one of my friends' name starts with a T. And we were called TNT in college because everywhere that we went was about to explode in terms of fights. That's literally what we were known for, is fighting. We'd go there and we'd mess things up. But we would fight every weekend together. We love fighting. And just to fast forward to my third attempt, I had my son. Some things didn't work out with me and his mom. I felt really bad about it, very depressed. I wasn't seeing my son as much as I wanted to. So my parents were out of town again. Ended up going at their house, going to the garage, turn the key on, texting them a goodbye note, turn the car on, listen to music, and lean the seat back. So as I lean the seat back, I'm just, close my eyes, waiting for myself to die, waiting to kill myself. And I heard a voice in my left ear saying, "Get out, your son needs you." And I kind of sit up like, no, I'm tripping. No, I didn't hear nothing. and then lay back down. And then I hear it even louder in my right ear saying, "Get out, your son needs you." I'm like, "I got you, God." I hear you, you know. I was religious, so I'm feeling like, okay, if I can hear you this clearly, like somebody was sitting in the seat next to me, I know that I have a purpose in life. And that's when I believe my mentality switched into, okay, I can't kill myself because this little 8-month-old needs me. So I ended up flying or moving over to California to continue my MMA career. Found out that I was blind in my right eye from a previous injury, and I'm never going to get my vision back. So I had to quit MMA, which, knowing that I love fighting, that really hurt. Like, I'm like, damn, I love fighting. I was getting paid to fight. Now I can't fight anymore. I didn't have a degree. I had quit. You know, I had transferred 3 different colleges. I had quit college. So now what am I going to do? Ended up finishing my degree from Concordia University online in exercise science. Went right to my MBA, and you know, the rest is history.
And in between that, thank you for sharing that. It's hard to hear, and I imagine it's hard to talk about. And there's a lot there. So in between, I believe it was your second attempt and your third attempt, you were involved in a crime that became public.
So I laugh now because, you know, I learned from my lesson, but at the time it was very serious. I worked at Best Buy. I was the asset protection, the security guard out there, right? And at the time, you know, broke college students, I'm still, you know, crazy in the head. I'm thinking, okay, what's the best way to make money? I didn't want to deal drugs. So I'm like, let me just see what I can take from this store. So fast forward to 3 months, I recruited 11 to 12 other people. Most of them were on the football team. I played football up there as well at in the college I went to. Most of them were on the football team, and I recruited them to come into the store, fill up their cart, and walk right out the indoors of Best Buy. And we did that for a couple of months. I think they estimated over $500,000 of stuff was taken from the store in the 3 months I was doing it. Ended up getting caught, ended up getting sentenced to 9 months in jail, and almost got deported. So that was fun. And from the time I got arrested initially to when I got sentenced, there were, you know, media all over the place, cameras all over my apartment. When I went to court, there was a guy sitting right outside the courtroom, the main building, when I got out the car to record me. I saw myself on the news. I was the front page of, there's an article written on us on the front page of the forum, Fargo Forum. My face was in the middle. And then everybody, all my associates, was outside in like a circular motion. So I was like the ringleader, they called me. They called my apartment Best Buy Junior.
So that happened, and you mentioned Fargo. It happened in Fargo, North Dakota, which is a smaller media market. So you made the front page there. I imagine if that happened in LA, probably not the front page of the newspaper. So you became infamous for a Best Buy crime ring. And you went to jail for that. And like you said, you almost got deported. How did that time incarcerated change you, or did it?
It did change me, because being there for 9 months and speaking with people who were there for murder, for all types of murder, child support, non-payment, just different things, I learned that these people, these individuals, yeah, they did a bad thing, but they're not bad people. But yet they keep coming back. Like, people that were there are repeat offenders. And I can't remember the exact stat, but I heard it was like 70-something% of Black men who go to jail end up going back to jail within, I think, a year. And I was determined not to do that. And then there's one CO, correctional officer, as I was leaving, this dude says, see you later. And I'm sure he didn't mean anything by it, but it hit me in my mind like, okay, so subconsciously, you expect me to be back in here. And I'm thinking in my mind, no, the hell, you're going to see me back here. Yeah, so I haven't been back.
So something shifted in your brain that I'm not going to keep going down this path. And then you have the third suicide attempt, and then you hear the voice of God, and you decide you need to stay alive for your child. And then you get some mental health help, correct?
Mm-hmm. It was kind of forced. One of my crimes, one of the fights I had to go to anger management. So during my anger management session, the counselor was like, I'm showing telltale signs of manic bipolar depression. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm cool. I'm just an angry person. And she wanted me to go get diagnosed, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not getting diagnosed because I don't want to be in the system. I thought, if I'm in the system, they're going to treat me the wrong way, so on and so forth. So I never clinically got diagnosed. However, every time I'd go back, let's say I'd go back for a couple of sessions here and there throughout my life just to, check up on mental health, they would always ask me, like, hey, have you gotten therapy, so on and so forth. And I have gotten therapy, and I'm actually on medication. Because of my depression, I have anxiety as well.
And how much of a difference has that made in your life?
I don't think the medication per se has made a difference. I think understanding that I'm wired differently has made a big difference in me, because I can tell right now, as I'm older, I can tell when I'm going down that path, and I'm able to stop it right away before it gets worse. I've realized the patterns of my thought process, my actions and whatnot, to be able to stop it and change before it gets bad. Either suicidal thoughts, or wanting to fight, or wanting to do drugs or drink or have sex or whatever. I'm able to stop it before it gets there.
So you've learned skills to cope.
Skills to cope. One of the examples of my skills of coping is that I was living in Houston back in 2016, 17, and I was married to my ex-wife. But once we had got divorced, or on the verge of being divorced, I was living in Houston in a one-bedroom apartment by myself, and I found myself going to work on X every single day for like a week straight, and having the different girls in my apartment every single day for like a week straight. And I realized at that moment, like, hey, I can feel myself going down this path. So I ended up moving back to Minnesota because I wanted to be closer to my family, because they were my support system as well. So being able to manage that, because I feel like if I didn't have those signs in Houston, I would have been in a lot of trouble.
So all of that happens. You have this background that is violent and criminal, and you decide, I'm going to go a different path. And what we've learned in the last 3 months, what I've learned as a white woman living in Minnesota, that the way that I saw the world is not the way that a lot of people see the world. And watching what happened with George Floyd, with the police, watching what happened with the protesters, and so many people feel unheard, which I didn't know. And I'm learning, I'm educating myself. And then to watch the city burn, and to see so many things that have happened. And because you have a new baby, you couldn't go to any of the protests or see where George Floyd was killed. How have you been handling watching it all with your perspective and seeing so much of the world that I never have seen? How has that been for you, and what are your emotions?
Well, what happened to George Floyd is tragic, right? But it's nothing new to us, people of color. I personally have never seen knee on neck, before, but I've seen numerous accounts of police brutality, profile, and all that. So it's not new to us. I think it's more recorded. So that's why it seems like it's happening more. But the more I talk to my friends, family, it's like, yeah, this has been going on for years and years and years. Nothing new to us. It's just being more recorded. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to make a difference in letting people of color's stories about their experiences with police officers be heard. Because I try to look for platforms where people of color can share their experiences, and there wasn't really anything out there. So that's why I decided to create this platform to have that platform.
So when you think about, you have this new baby, this beautiful new baby, and you think about the world that she's going to grow up in, what can we do to make it better than what it is right now?
And that's a question that I ask myself and every guest that I have. I also, of course, have a 7-year-old, almost 8-year-old son. And that's scary in and of itself, because he's mixed. He's half white, half black. And before this past June, he's been living full time with his mom. And I get him, obviously, weeks at a time, whatnot. But he lived in Fargo, so he didn't really understand his black side, right? So I had to, one of my episodes in my podcast, I actually had a conversation with him about racism. And it's very scary as a parent of a black man, or black boy about to be a black man, then now a black woman, and how to live in society, how to act, how to not act, how you can't act a certain way as your white counterpart, so on and so forth. So be able to talk to them young, as early as possible, and have them have that knowledge and know, hey, I'm in the world, in the eyes of society, I am different than everybody else. So it's very scary, but I think with the millennials, who's below, we all know, the generation below us, there's a lot of different interracial relationships. And I think that's going to help out in the future, because now they're more understanding as to the feelings of people of color, in my opinion.
And you said something that I think is really interesting that I'd like to lean into. You said you want him to get to know his Black side.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, to me, to the Black side is knowing how to, it's going to sound bad, but knowing how to act around police officers, knowing how the world, or some of the world views you, knowing why there's a Black Lives Matter movement, knowing what that is, knowing that the history that they might teach you in school ain't the real history. For example, Christopher Columbus kind of thing, knowing that he's half Nigerian. Where's Nigeria? Oh, that's African. Yeah, that's Africa. So he's African. So like knowing that type of thing, knowing, especially with my family, we speak our dialect was Yoruba, and being able to know that that's his language too, because he's obviously my son. So having to know all that, like, hey, I'm a Black boy, not just a boy, I'm a Black boy. I thought that was very important. And I'm glad that his mom allowed him, or we agreed to have him live with me, to be in a more diverse school than the one in Fargo. So he's not bubbled into the white society up in Fargo.
And the society there, you say the white society, what negative part of that society don't you want him to have?
Well, right now, he's still young, so I don't think it's going to affect him now, right? But there's going to be little sly, like his mom told me there's been little sly comments at her regarding him. For example, hey, is his dad still in his life? Hey, where's his dad? How long? Like asking different questions like that, because they don't see Black males in the kid's life as much in Fargo. So in terms of the white society, I don't think it's anything negative right now, but I also want him to know that he is not, even though he's 50-50, he's not a white boy. He can't do things the way white people can do in terms of going to the store with their hood on, going to the store with their hands in pockets, having braids in your hair. If you have braids in your hair, that's, they will look at you differently. Period. No matter what you want to say, they will say, no, they don't, but it's the fact they do look at you differently. If you have your hands in your pockets, but everybody else doesn't, they will think that you're stealing. So having them know that, hey, your white friends, they can do things that you can't do, and vice versa. You can do things that they can't do as well, is what I wanted him to know. And obviously with my daughters too.
And I think for many people who have not had this experience, it's the things that the podcasts and the books and the things that I've read in the last 3 months has opened my eyes to something that was always there. And when I think about your story and that you're so open about it and willing to have these kinds of conversations, it's so interesting to hear that perspective. And when I've talked to other people of color, what they've said is that what happened to George Floyd and everything that has happened since then really was more of an awakening for white people than for Black people, because people of color, like you said, it's not new. This stuff happens. You just didn't see it. You didn't talk about it. Maybe they didn't die. But all too well, but you have the podcast and you've spent time in different kinds of groups across the country. Is that what your experience is as well? That
Yep.
It's that we and I use I hate using big generic collective, but we people that haven't seen this before, we need to see this and we need to make a change. And if that's the good that comes out of this, that would be moving the needle forward.
Yep. And I think that's true. And I think that the biggest thing that I'm, as bad as it sounds, happy and excited for is that people are seeing police officers being violent to peaceful protesters and peaceful people, right? And I know most police officers are good. I'm not trying to condone it, to talk negative about police officers, but we're talking about the bad apples here, right? And I know that throughout, since George Floyd happened, there've been countless amount of media outlets, social media, whatnot, showing that. And to us, oh, cool. Now you guys see what we see every day. Now you guys see, this police officer just pushed this old man, he cracked his head on the floor. Oh, that sucked. But my uncle had that happen to him 30 years ago, So it's like having that visibility now. And I feel like now that the visibility is there, now it's going to be action taken against the police officers that are aggressive for no reason and do abuse their authority, a lot. So I'm happy that it's being recorded more.
And in thinking about the concept, some of the words and phrases that have come out in the last few months about, and they were already out, they're getting more mainstream, and being anti-racist, being not racist is not a thing. You need to be either you're racist or you're anti-racist, which is a concept I wasn't familiar with before. The concept of this generational racism and institutional racism and all of these, that's not new to you, and you've lived it. And what's interesting about your story is that if I look at a statistic of the Fargo prison crime, you're the statistic of this Black man who people had an assumption that you're going to be back. And really, your story isn't about your race as much as it's about your mental health being being not addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did people look at you as a Black man with a violence and with a bad relationship and put you in this category as, well, that's par for the course? That's how it is?
I think people in my high school really did that. They were like, oh, we've seen this Timi before. It's a matter of time since he got in trouble. And a lot of people who, when they heard that I got sentenced to 9 months or whatever, they thought it was because I hurt somebody, I got in a fight or whatnot. So I think, and my people in high school really thought I was just an angry Black man. And I kind of was hearing that, subconsciously and thinking about that subconsciously going into college. I'm like, I'm an angry Black man. I'm going to be the angriest, baddest Black man on the planet. That was my mentality. And I kind of had to put that persona on because coming from the Midwest, we had people from Texas, from Florida, and really in the grimy parts. I didn't grow up in the grimy part. I grew up in suburbs, right? But I've seen people who came up from the grimy parts of, Texas and Florida and whatnot, the hood. And I'm thinking, oh, these guys think they better than me, just because they grew up in the hood. No, I'm gonna show them I'm the baddest person. I want to fight them, but I let them know I'm not one to be messed with. So having that angry Black man persona was kind of what I subconsciously cherished, and because of what I experienced in high school.
And you had people put an identity on you, and then you lived up to it. Based on what I know about you, and as we talk about the ways that you've turned your life, you don't do anything sort of halfway. I mean, whether it's a fight or whether it's a party, you're all in.
And that's what I'm also known for. When I set my mind to something, no matter what it is, nobody's going to stop me from doing it. Nobody, unless God stop me. Nobody's going to stop me. If I want to be, this person, that person, want to make it here, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to struggle. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to do whatever to make it what my goal. So my goal is, hey, I'm going to make damn sure that nobody messes with me. And I haven't got to the stories about getting guns put on me in college and whatnot, and me saying, hey, if you're going to pull that gun on me, you better kill me, because if not, I'm going to kill you first. So like different things like that has happened to me.
For so many reasons, it's really surprising you're alive.
Look, I'm surprised, I'm not going to lie, with my drug usage and 3 suicide attempts. There's a reason I'm here. There's got to be.
Yeah, that's what you're figuring out now, right? Is what can this? What's the end of the redemptive story? Mm-hmm. So you said something important that I want to hit on again, is that not all police officers are racist. Not all white people are racist. Not all Black people. I mean, whenever we get in this mindset of all people are X, it's racism. And, I think it's important that there are racist cops, there are racist teachers, and there are anti-racist cops and anti-racist teachers. So the important thing that's happening in the movement now is let's get out the bad ones and let's get in some good ones so we can actually have some justice that feels a little bit more fair. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate?
Yep, that is. And although I try to avoid police officers as much as possible, I know most cops are not bad. I don't want to take the chance of being involved in a altercation with a bad police officer. However, if I need a police officer to come to my house to do something, I will give him a call. But it's going to take a lot for me to take up the courage to call him like, hey, this is going on. Can you come help me out? Because who knows what's going to happen if they come? Who knows? They're going to think I'm the person that's doing the crime or whatever the case may be.
And the business that you started came from this experience of, you know what? I'm not calling the police. There has to be a better solution. And you turned on this innovation side and you're all in. So tell me about your business, which is so cool, and how that's so important to your life right now.
Yeah. So my business I started is called Safe Resell. I started thinking about it back in 2018 end of 2017, early 2018, when I first went back up to Minnesota. Before I thought about Safe Resell, I was working on another company, right, trying to get that up and running. And when I was working on that company, I wanted to sell my iPhone. I went to a big chain store in the middle of the day around 2 or 3 p.m. We were at the parking lot at the very end of the parking lot. I got on my phone for the person to see, and he said, "Run me that," which means give me your phone, I'm gonna rob you. And he had a gun in his hand. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna get killed over this phone, bro. You can have it. I'll take that loss, I can't quite remember if he was able to use it or I was able to block him from using it. But I do remember, like, damn, what am I gonna do? Should I call the police? No, what are they gonna do? They're not gonna, allocate resources to find this phone and to find this person that did it, because this person is black, I'm black, they don't give a damn. That was my thought process. Also, I'm like, if I call them, what interaction they're gonna have with me? Are they gonna think that this car is stolen? Are they gonna try and search me? Whatever the case may be. I didn't want to deal with that or potentially deal with that situation. So driving back home, I'm like, damn, this dude got me. How did this happen? I'm the kind of guy that thinks critically about why things happen. And I'm like, this dude got me because he hadn't paid for this item yet. So then I was still thinking about, my old business, first business. So I didn't really think much of it. But when I realized that first business I was trying to launch couldn't happen, I started thinking more about safe resale and how I can get this to launch. So now I finally end up doing research on it and market beta testing and whatnot. And I end up launching it July of 2019. And it's a prepaid online marketplace using an online mobile wallet. So now you don't have to bring $1,000 to buy that phone to be potentially robbed. And the person who's buying the phone will have no desire to rob you because he had already paid for the item. So I launched that 2019 premise of not being able to call a police officer.
And how's it going?
At first, it was slower, but I got into Lunar Startups, and that's been a huge, huge help. Danielle and Amanda and the cohorts are amazing. We're also launching a delivery service through a partnership. So now, because of COVID, we thought about launching this. So now you don't even have to leave your house to buy and sell locally. So now you're even more safe with not having to meet up with the buyer seller.
Such a good idea. And I met you through Lunar Startups, which is a fantastic organization in the Twin Cities that helps entrepreneurs in the startup phase and moving forward, specifically helping people of color, folks that don't have access to resources. I love what they're doing and have for quite some time been involved there. And your idea is so good. It makes so much sense. Even just the creepy factor. Not everybody is afraid that they're going to call the police. I mean, my perspective, if I go there, I'm calling the police, I'm getting a good lawyer. That's my perspective, right? Mm-hmm. I have a different background. So but I think about if I'm going to sell something online and I have some creepy person show up, I don't want them to know where I live, or I don't want to get, it's sketchy. And we've had, as we've sold some things, had some just weird experiences, nothing where I felt in danger, but some people that it's like, well, now they know where I live, shoot. So I really like what you're doing. And I think especially in COVID, it makes a lot of sense. So we'll put a link to your website on the Flip Your Script podcast website. And I am really excited to see where that goes for you. And
thank you.
Based on what I know about you and your drive, I mean, you're fighting now for this in a way that you used to get in actual fights. I bet there's more than one business in your future. Is that what you think? You got
definitely.
Ideas?
Safe resale. I love safe resale. It's my baby, but that's not my end goal. My ultimate goal, which God willing, I'm able to do this, is to start a nonprofit to help African youths with their mental health. Because from growing up in the African society in the world, I realized that a lot of Africans don't believe in mental health, or they're not knowledgeable. And with that trickles down to the kids not knowing how to get help or where to get help, and they internalize it. At least that's what I did, and that's what people that I've spoken with did as well. So my end goal is to start a nonprofit that helps African youths get through and resources for mental health. And so I'm hoping to launch that within 5 years, depending on how safe resale goes, and hopefully that works out.
I can't wait to watch. It's such an important mission, and your experience is going to be so powerful in helping your community. And I know that's your passion. What would have happened if 10-year-old Timi goes to your nonprofit, or your parents have access to that nonprofit? What would the trajectory of your life, would it have been different?
I think it would have been a lot different. I feel like I wouldn't have gotten in a lot of trouble, as much trouble as I did. We were able to get me resources to get through when I had my temper tantrums, quote unquote, which is also my mental health spells. And been able to have my parents know, like, hey, this dude isn't a bad kid. He just has some things going on mentally with him that he can't help. And this is the only way he can take care of himself, by fighting. That was my release, was okay, let me fight. I'm so pent up, so worked up, so frustrated, so all types of emotions, sad, mad, happy, all in one. I want to take it out on somebody just to release it, and that was my release. So being able to have those resources, have my parents be knowledgeable, which then would trickle down to me, then have those tools growing up, I probably wouldn't have gotten much trouble as I did.
And you wouldn't be who you are without all that you've been through and have this passion on your heart to help others. So do you think that's, look in the future, do you think all of this happens so that you can help others?
I do not regret one thing in my life. Not one thing. One of the main reasons I don't regret it is because it taught me how to be resilient, taught me how to push forward when things go bad and to not give up. It taught me right now how to be compassionate with my son and my daughter and my wife. It taught me how to take care or speak with other people who are going through mental health issues as well, problems, issue, whatever you want to call it. So I don't regret anything, and I don't think I would be where I'm at. I'm not saying it'll be better or worse life. I just don't think I'd be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for my experiences.
One of the questions I ask of everybody at the end is there a quote, a scripture, music, something that kind of motivated you or is resonating with you as you've flipped your script and turned the tide of your life?
Yeah, right now in my life, my biggest motivation is a script that I have. I actually have that tattooed on my chest. It's Philippians 4:13, which is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So that's huge for me, is because I be, sometimes thinking, can I do this? Am I too busy? Am I good enough? And then I think to myself, no matter what, God got me, through help me push through this, situation. And whatever I set my mind to, I will do it because God has my back. Another quote that I have, I actually heard it in jail, funny enough, is every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. And that was huge with me because at the moment I'm thinking, I'm a sinner, whatever the case may be, but every sinner has a future and every saint that's currently a saint does have a past. So I got that quote tattooed on my right side as well, because that's really meant a lot in jail. Hey, you don't got to be stuck where you're at. You got a future ahead of you. And actually this dude who was sitting 30 years, he told me that. So it's crazy that the dude who did a terrible thing was so influential to me in terms of that quote. I've never heard it before.
Everyone can have an impact with their words, can't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
I like conversations like this that are honest and transparent. And yeah, I'll be honest, not easy to have. It's not easy to hear your background and to hear how watching George Floyd, how that hits you and how different it is for me. And neither one it's not better or worse. It's just different. And we live 10 miles from each other and have had a completely different viewpoint. And boy, that's so important. And I think as we both raise our kids to be more aware of that, I can speak for me, my kids to be more aware, and we've really worked on that. But man, it's a work in progress. All of us, work in progress.
Yeah, I just want, for me, is we need allies. We've been trying to fight this battle by ourselves, meaning people of color, and nobody was listening. And I feel like we have a lot of allies after this George Floyd murder that people are now starting to listen. For example, Juneteenth. People act like Juneteenth is new. Now, this has been a thing for a while. We've been celebrating it. Now it's just becoming a forefront of, businesses and whatnot to take Juneteenth off and whatnot. So we need the allies that we currently have to continue to speak with, to walk with us, to ride with us, to speak for us, speak with us, to continue to support us. I was actually, quick story, I had a business lunch a couple of weeks ago, and this one dude was walking past with a table full of black guys. One dude was walking past, that's some ignorant stuff about being from Wakanda. For people who don't know, it's a fake African country in Marvel comics, right? He made a very ignorant comment. And of course, we as black men were just like, whatever, screw you kind of thing. About 20 minutes later, a white family was sitting right across from us. Before they left, they came and apologized for them and sat down with us for about 20, 30 minutes, just talked about why that was so rude and other stuff. And that made us feel good that, okay, people are now listening and hearing and understanding what we go through. Things like that happen every day for us. So just like whatever, we can't fight everybody that calls us the N-word. Even though we want to, we can't. If somebody calls me the N-word, trust me, I want to hit you. But am I going to? No, I'm not. So just being an ally, continue to listen, continue to get educated, and not take things so like personal. That's one thing that the Allegheny do not take it so personal. And just because a person is related to somebody of color or has some marriage relationship with somebody doesn't mean that they're not racist. And understanding what we mean by Black Lives Matter does not mean all lives don't matter, which I hate that comparison, or Blue Lives Matter, which I hate that comparison because blue, you can take that out at the end of the day. I can't take out my black skin at the end of the day. So not taking things so personal and understand why we say Black Lives Matter, because in the eyes of society, we don't matter. No, we don't matter. So that's what I hope to continue to happen.
This conversation has been so insightful. I love Timi's dramatic flip your script story of being a criminal to becoming a victim to starting a business. It's so motivating. He reminds us in a really powerful way, your story is never done. People can define you and box you in, but at the end of the day, you write your own ending. And with grit, anything is possible. I don't know about you, but I can't wait for Timi to open his nonprofit and make a difference in the lives of other kids. So my hope is that Timi's story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Script, hosted by Krist Piehl and produced by Media Minefield. If you like our message, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also check out flipyourscriptpodcast.com for pictures, resources mentioned in the show, and information about our other great episodes.